Today's AskReddit post. What was your "this person is on another level of stupid" moment? Oh boy, this is gonna be a good one. Let's get started. I once worked in a Midwestern grocery store deli and I was trying to explain to a woman that the name brand and generic brand of the macaroni salad that we carried were in fact identical. The woman yelled at me saying she could only have the generic brand because one is made with mayo and the other is made with mayonnaise and I don't like mayo. When I tried to explain that mayo is an abbreviation of mayonnaise, she just said I'm from the South. I know my food and tutted away. She is going to be in for a shock when she goes to the pharmacy for her prescription of mayonnaise. Yep, she got it at the Mayo Clinic. Personally, I would only go to the mayonnaise clinic. I got a concussion a while back. A friend of mine told me not to come close because it might be contagious. They weren't kidding. A girl in my school had gotten about 3 concussions within a year, and when she hit her head the 4th time and blacked out for a minute, refused to go to the doctor because last time they said if I got another concussion it could cause brain damage. So I'm not going to let them give me another one. Edit. Because so many people saw this and are asking. No, she did not play any sports, she was just incredibly stupid and clumsy even before the first one. I think the third one might have done it for her. I laughed. Ex-flatmate cancelled the gas and electricity contract because it was too expensive. Wondered why we had no more electricity nor gas. She thought we paid €90 a month to get a hotline 24/7 in case of problem. Trying to help a dumb person is just an exercise in F utilities. But they took away the utilities. Trying to help a dumb person is just an exercise in F. I worked at a restaurant and we had a dish that was just a whole grilled chicken, chopped into pieces. A woman who ordered for delivery called us, absolutely scathing, complaining that her order of one whole chicken only contained 2 chicken breasts. Had to explain to grown-ass woman that chicken only have 2 breasts. Edit. To clarify, the rest of the chicken was also there. She was just expecting more than 2 chicken breasts. She stated this clearly to both me and my manager, who she insisted she speak to over this inconvenience. She wanted some of that Total Recall chicken. Make her wish she had 3 mouths. I had to explain to a girl why you couldn't grow your hair down in front of your face and just cut out eye holes. Even explaining it her, she couldn't grasp it and brushed me off as being too smart. This is my favorite one. LOL. This beats mine, LOL. I worked at a pet store in college. This customer asked me which food would make his pit bull swole. I suggested a high protein food with a good amount of exercise but advised that a lot of it was determined by the dog's genetics. He asked me if we sold genetics. Dude, you're so dumb. One genetics is like $5. Why didn't you give the man his 2 geneticses? Genetici actually. Genectituses actually. Rescued a co-worker on the side of the road with a flat tire, waiting for the tow truck. I pointed out the nail at the top of their tire. They scoffed and looked at me like I was the stupidest person in the world and exclaimed, "That's not true BC, it's flat at the bottom." I just walked away and never brought it up again. Gosh, what an idiot. Nails are always flat on the top. Except those pesky left-handed nails. I had a bucket of nails one time that was almost 50% left-handed. I was friends with a guy who believed those fake Apple adverts like Apple Wave, microwave your phone for instant battery charge. I was so dumbfounded that he actually fell for it. When I saw him the week after and he had a new phone, it all clicked for me. At least he's got the money to fund his idiocy. Not everyone that buys a new phone every year can actually afford it. I'd say most who do actually can't, while those who can afford it usually don't. Those who can afford it usually don't. Which is exactly why they could afford it. I used to work with a girl who was sweet but so dumb. We were in a meeting once and somehow someone mentioned baked ham. My manager said, "Doug, I hate ham. It looks like human flesh." The girl I mentioned was sitting next to me and looked horrified and whispered, "Does ham really come from people?" I'd be more worried about the manager that knows what cooked human flesh looks like. When I served in the King's African Rifles, the local Zambezi tribesmen called human flesh long pig. Never much cared for it. I was once asked how it felt to come to the US as a refugee. I'm from Germany. She then looked rather surprised when I told her that Hitler has been dead for 75 years and that Germany is one of the more liberal countries in the world these days. She full on thought I fled Nazi Germany. Back in 2000, I was in the US with my German girlfriend at the time and we convinced my roommates that Germans live in teepees. Some wigwams already had power but not all. My good friend is from Estonia. Did the same trick in Germany. Calm. Anyways, he was in a bar waiting for me, chatting with his girlfriend in Estonian, and as the language is not really known, the neighboring table asked him about their origins. You know, everybody is a little bit more relaxed after a few beers. Plus he is fluent in German to reply. Once I got to the pub, he had persuaded the table next to him that Estonia has no electricity, that he communicates with me through post and they borrowed neighbors' horses to visit me in Germany. That's glorious. I suppose given that Estonia only has around 1 million people that they might just be able to yell really loud and have everyone hear. I worked at a meat desk for a summer job, and a woman came in and asked if we had any meat without spices or sauces. She then proceeded to tell us that the doctor had said that her dogs got sick because she kept feeding them pizza and they couldn't handle the spices. She then said, oh, but they love pizza so much. I feel bad for them. I'm probably still gonna feed them pizza. I hate people like this who knowingly harm their children and or pets' health. At least with children you can call CPS, but pets are sadly at these dumbasses' mercy. Animal abuse is reportable in a lot of places. They will investigate if you beat your dog but they won't turn up for threat of pizza. Spent 7 years working for TSA. Had a pretty sweet detail where I would assist passengers who did not have it or assist SAR agents if they had questions about the validity of the given ID. I get a call on the radio asking for assistance and verifying an ID. I come over and ask what the issue is. Agent hands me a driver's license and says can't accept this Canadian ID. Hearing this, I assume it's expired or the wrong name. I take a look and see that it is an Alaskan driver's license. I quickly approve the passenger and send them on their way. I then spent 10 minutes explaining that Canadian DLs are acceptable according to TSA regulations and Alaska has never been a Canadian territory. This co-worker has a master's degree in mathematics and served 25 years in the US Air Force. It's dumbfounding how people can be so high functioning in some areas and leave you bewildered as to how they even managed to survive till adulthood in others. I think the bigger issue is that he has a master's degree in math and works for TSA. Second career with a retirement. That guy will be in his 60s collecting 2 pensions. Great point. He is smarter than most of us. Probably got his education paid for as well. I work for Parks Canada in Yoho National Park. I have been asked the question, seriously, where do you keep the animals at night? Twice in my career. To this day I still find great joy imagining what they thought was going on each night as we collected every large animal in the parks. This story is in good faith. I was asking my friend, Jay, when he learned about 9/11. He started telling me this specific story of how he walked outside and saw smoke everywhere and how he asked his mom about it. He claimed she said planes hit the towers. I stared at him, just silently taking in the story. We live in the Midwest. There was no way he saw the debris from the towers. Also, we were born in 2003. Edit. Do I really have to defend Jay? He wasn't purposefully lying. It was most likely a fake memory, so he thought he was telling the truth. It was just a fun dumb moment I thought I would share. Your story reminded me of a 9/11 experience I heard from 2 college freshmen. The first guy asks his friend where he was on 9/11 and he says Philadelphia. He was telling this guy how he saw one of the planes hit the Pentagon from Philadelphia. Then the first guy asks what the Pentagon is. The second guy says it's like a wrestling venue in New York City. SMH. He just can't keep his shapes straight. Madison Square Garden equals Pentagon equals the pyramids equals a baseball diamond equals a boxing ring. They're all just shapes. Knew a girl in middle school that didn't understand the concept of perspective. She also thought north was whichever direction you were facing at the time. Ah yes, true north. Strong and free. An old co-worker was telling me that there's people out there that think Alaska is an island. I laughed in disbelief, but another co-worker overheard and was flabbergasted. What? It's not? But it's always drawn off to the side with Hawaii. Point made. Another time a guy with a really thick accent walked in. Same girl was like, "Oh wow, I like your accent, where are you from?" Said guy. Have a guess her response? Haviguas? I've never heard of that place before. And walked away. She is super sweet, just slightly oblivious. Haviguas ain't no country I ever heard of. They speak English in Haviguas. Does he look like a bitch? Haviguas. Someone in my history class argued that Mussolini was a type of pasta. I knew a kid in high school who thought Tortellini was a dictator. Benito Tortellini. Barilla Tortellini. No, that's just an imposter. Summer camp counselor made all the kids on a school bus keep the windows up on a hot day because they could feel the air conditioning coming from the front of the bus. It was so hot, and I, maybe 10 years old at the time, had to explain to the 40-year-old counselor that the air conditioning they were feeling was the wind coming in through the bus driver's open window. She still didn't believe me. I begged her to ask the bus driver to confirm the bus did not have air conditioning, but she didn't want to bother him while he was driving. It was like a 1-hour bus trip. She finally got hot enough and asked the bus driver if the bus had air conditioning. And he jokingly said the bus only has air conditioning when the windows are down and the wheels are turning. She then looked back at me and said, "See, I told you the bus had air conditioning," and proceeded to force us to keep the windows up. How does someone that ducking dents become a teacher? If you find out, please let me know. I'd like a career change. How much is a $50 worth? She was the newest teller my boss hired. Will never forget that moment. I've gotta say, I've said some dumb poop when I first start a new job. It's easy to go into I know nothing mode while also being so stressed your brain stops working. Me, when I was a kid, I had a real old transistor radio. Asked my parents for a newer radio, so I could receive and listen to newer music. Had someone ask me, is Europe on Earth? I'm European and no. We live on Mars, lol. LOL. I looked at the person, blinked twice, and walked away. Classmate was convinced that winning the lottery is 50% chance, because you either win it or not, in last year of high school, even though it's obvious. I want to put it into words. Probability is not equal for each possibility. Well, I don't know. You're either right or you're wrong here. So the way I see it, there's a 50/50 chance that's correct. A friend didn't have coins for a vending machine but did have $1. She folded up the dollar and forced it into the coin slot and then did not understand why she did not get her item. For me, I had a concussion and was getting x-rays taken. They gave me a lead blanket to wrap around my twig and berries. I took it and wrapped it around me like a cape. I could not understand what they wanted me to do. In your defense, you were concussed. True, my noggin was scrambled. We were talking about the Irish potato famine in college, and this one girl said, "Oh wow, I thought it was the potato family," as if that wasn't enough. She later asked why were they so eager to get jobs. If I was that hungry I wouldn't even try to get a job. Man, I wish I was joking. There was a girl in my high school who forced the teacher to pause a documentary about people living in mud huts in Africa because she was upset that they were showing us fictional movies in a history class. It took everyone else in the room to convince her that people actually live like that in some places. Wealthy area living for ya. Funny in part because it's usually other way around. People who don't believe that there are modern cities and many countries in Africa. It's funny, too. At least in a lot of Africa you can legally make your own home. Out of shanty, mud and poop. Here in the West we just make people sleep in the street and pat ourselves on the back for not having low quality housing. At least the people in shanties and mud huts have something. Yeah, but low quality housing might lower my property value, which is constantly on my mind as I habitually sell my house every 6 months. I had to explain to a woman that apples did not contain any gluten, meat, or dairy ingredients. How can one think apples contain dairy? She thought gluten was found in every major grain, and that apples were a grain because they have seeds. I worked at a vegan restaurant. Number 1 most commonly asked question: what are your potatoes made of? Right, double quotation mark. Do people not understand that a potato is a vegetable? Edit those wondering. Plain French fries. They didn't have batter or anything. Just your standard sliced, blanched, frozen, fried and salted French fries. I work retail. Had a customer a few weeks back pull her mask down to cough into the open air and then pull it back up. Really makes you wonder why there are people like this in the world. I want to ask these people why they did that, then explain that they're wearing the mask for that exact reason, to protect others. But I'd be worried that they'd just be like, oh, this is to protect others, not me? So you're saying I don't need to wear the mask at all? I can't use this, I'm left-handed. It was a ducking shovel and I was the idiot that thought a left-handed shovel existed. Edit. No, I wasn't trying to get out of working. I was literally that stupid I thought I couldn't use it. Edit 2. To give the story a little more depth. What happened was we were digging up the long jump pit and the shot put vector at my school to get it loose for the home meet. And when it was my turn to shovel, some upperclassmen decided to pull a prank and tell me that it was a right-handed shovel knowing I was left-handed. They sat back and watched the fireworks as I made a fool of myself. Something to add to the rookie joke. Go ask them for a bucket of steam, left-handed shovel and a long wait. My friend is allergic to walnuts. One day, he made this sandwich in our college dorm. It had walnuts garnished on top of the bread. I then remember him telling me, oh look, there's walnuts on here, and proceeds to eat the entire sandwich. At the time I didn't know he was allergic. I leave to shower and when I come back there are 2 paramedics in our dorm taking him out on a stretcher. The following day I asked what happened, to which he replies something along the line, I accidentally ate some walnuts which I'm allergic to. And by the time I went to get a Benadryl, my throat had started to close and I couldn't swallow it, so I had to call 911 inches. I was just utterly shocked how he even let this entire situation happen. I really couldn't believe it. College days, am I right? Edit. He knew he was allergic to walnuts but he's very careless, so it was one of those YOLO moments. Luckily I don't think he did that ever again. Once at my old job a co-worker came out the back and I offered him some chocolate someone had dropped off for us. He thanked me and popped it in his mouth and then chewed it for a bit and cheerfully asked me, oh, do you know if there's nuts in this, by the way? I'm allergic to them, so I shouldn't really be eating chocolate. I was like, what? I've literally never seen a bar of chocolate that didn't contain the may have traces of nuts warning. Why are you eating this? And he goes, oh yeah, good point, and spat it into the bin and then happily wandered back out the front like nothing had happened. Day after Halloween. 4th grade. Best friend brings his candy that he can't eat to school. He was allergic to peanuts. I absolutely love Reese cups. So I'm sitting there snacking on them. Loving it. He says, I've always wanted to try one. They look so good. Now his mom had bought extra candy cause he was also allergic to other stuff. So he had more than I did. It wasn't like I was being rude or anything. I joke and go, hey, if you want to try it, I'm not a king. Don't know why I didn't say boss. He pops a Reese cup in his mouth, grabs his EpiPen, and stabs himself. Chews a bit, then swallows. Man, those are really good. He proceeded to raise his hand to tell my teacher he ate something with peanuts, already gave himself an EpiPen, and will go to the nurse. I wonder what he's up to today. He risked it for the biscuit. Respect. Once in middle school, I simply could not get the concept of the phrase the day after tomorrow through to a kid. He couldn't wrap his mind around it. Edit. It's swell that many of you know the word overmorrow. I am proud of you. This incident was decades ago. I won't be sharing overmorrow with him anytime. You should have brought up the day after yesterday. I'm an identical twin, and have been asked all manner of utterly ridiculous questions about it throughout my life. But I think the stupidest was when a girl once asked me, do you ever get yourselves mixed up with each other? I responded, are you asking me if I ever sometimes think I'm my brother? She replied, yep, number. I don't. try being a MF set of twins and people asking if you're identical. Yeah, that happened to me too many times. The time I watched someone who had missed their exit on the highway stop on the shoulder, back up, turn around, and go up the entrance ramp. I could not ducking believe it. Edit. A couple of fun details about this incident to really highlight its stupidity. The next exit was a few miles up the road. Going to that exit and then turning around might have delayed their drive by 15 minutes tops. There was no traffic ahead. I watched this person do this as I was coming down that same entrance ramp to get onto the highway. I remember that my driver's ed textbook had an explicit warning against doing that. At the time I wondered why they had put something so obvious in there. Later I realized it was in there because lots of people do it. She thought the capital of Saudi Arabia was hummus. I wish I could make this up. Edit. Just to add on to this story and provide context since it's getting more attention than I thought. When I was in uni, I was in this class and talked to a girl who sat next to me. One day I brought hummus to class and she was like, "Oh, that looks good. What is that?" And I said it was hummus and she went, "LOL, don't you mean dip? Hummus is the capital of Saudi Arabia." And then I just explained to her that hummus is a type of dip made from chickpeas. Then I offered her some. We were class friends for a little bit, but I had to stop studying with her because we talked about Latin America and poverty in class, and she informed me that to cure Latin America's poverty, Peru should just get rid of Machu Picchu and replace it with a giant resort to attract tourists. That Machu Picchu was too old and no one cared about it anymore. I found new people to study with. Other than that, she was a sweet girl. She just was very ignorant on a lot of things. What a dumbus. Everyone knows it's the capital of Iran. Fucking idiot. Iran is a made up place from TV shows. That's ridiculous. Iran just the other day from the responsibilities in my life. When a dumb as a brick girl that I went to high school with asked our history teacher if she'd ever owned a slave. Edit. I'm aware slavery exists today. This was in the context of the American Civil War. Slavery is not legal in the United States. Edit 2. For all y'all who are saying but the 13th Amendment. Luckily there is legal precedent outside the specific wording of the amendments that has determined what does and does not fall under the definition of involuntary servitude. Stop trying to educate me. I used to teach history and was actually asked that same question. I was also asked why Sam Houston and the Texas Army didn't sell their horses and buy trucks when they were avoiding the Mexican army. That's easy. Henry Ford refused to sell to them because they wore what he dubbed to be silly hats. So I was talking to one of my online friends about global warming for whatever reason. I said that my mom ran into an old high school friend that didn't even believe that there was trash in the ocean. We live like 10 minutes from the beach, so you can clearly see evidence of trash coming in from the ocean. Anyways, my online friend one-upped me and said they met someone who believed in global warming but they were in support of it. I've heard that a few times. An older relative says it's part of Revelation and she's eager for it to come. The earth destroyed by fire and all that. Imagine rooting for Earth to be destroyed and thinking, yeah, Christ will totally let me into his kingdom. Listen, the woman's favorite part of Christianity is smug moral superiority. That doesn't scratch the surface with her. I grew up in a country where English is not the first language. One day in elementary school we had to write an essay in our English class. I wanted to score an A, so I added a beautiful sentence with some very elaborate words towards the end. The teacher marked nothing wrong but that particular sentence. She said it wasn't grammatically correct. I didn't have the heart to tell her that I straight up copied that entire sentence verbatim from an English textbook published by Oxford. So you got the right grade for the wrong reason. I had a coworker who could never figure out what time her 15-minute break was over. We were both bank tellers. I honestly wonder if she's just saying that to get away with a longer break. Yeah, I forget how clocks work too when I'm on my break. I've had a few, but the most recent was myself. My partner was installing a new baby gate and I complained that it wasn't as high as the one we had before. He said, "There's only about 30mm of difference." I angrily replied, "Are you joking?" There's at least 2-3 centimeters of difference. He just blankly stared at me for a good 10 seconds before I realized. I feel like you could reasonably chalk this up to pregnancy brain. For how long after my child is born can I use this excuse? Yes. Bro, you actually watched the whole video. I'd give you a high five if I was a human. Make sure to click the like button and subscribe for more great content. See you next time.